already started our Catalyst conversation. And Mikki Tam is our guest today. Mikki is the founder of Taketombo. She is a multidisciplinary professional with art, design, interior design, architecture, retailing, branding, storyteller. You'll find a lot more about Mikki and her journey in our conversation later. We captured Mikki from one of our Catalyst learning journey in Japan. Professor Yutaka, who's also on Zoom today, was also with us on our Japan trip. We get to learn Mikki's personal journey and also her entrepreneur journey a little bit from our Japan trip. And later on, every time when Mikki is in the States, we invite her back to the program and share with us. So today we have a program participant from arts and cultural management and design management, juniors and seniors to join a conversation today. We can be very casual and ask questions. So please join us if you have a question for Mikki. And also before we start our formal program, I like to share a little bit more about our Catalyst Action Network. So as any initiative, it starts from an idea, some dialogues and conversations. So members of our alumni and program participants want to continue the learning journey even after they graduate from the program. So hopefully, after you graduated, you can also come back and bring in speakers and guests for us to have an ongoing learning community, lifelong learning community to exchange ideas, lead as if life matters and drive for changes. This is just the start. And today we have Mary and Mikki, so we'll have an initial conversation, and please join us for the rest.
Okay, when you're listening to Mikki, because she has so much to say, please listen with your capstone head on, those of you who are seniors, and those of you who are juniors. How come we don't have any freshmen? Those of you who are juniors, think about Mikki's journey. I was just talking with Juhal in the hall, and he said, my friend said, well, you started off here. What are you doing there? Anyway, that's sort of the way life goes in our ACM and DN programs. So listen to Mikki's journey and how it doesn't have a straight line because she's a creative person. So Mikki, when you were born,
Let's start there. Okay.
How did you find yourself in Japan?
How did I find myself? I mean, how did I end up?
What was your spiritual journey in Japan, but what? How did you end up in Japan as a woman who was born in California?
So yes, my childhood and my educational years, as well as my professional experience, are all from the U.S. And I lived in New York and worked in Union Square, so I know the area very well. It's actually my career that took me there. My entire life, career, education are in art and design. So I went to art, private art school, like Pratt. After graduation, I worked in LA and then I worked in New York. It was during the downtime, it was during 2011. A few years after the subprime mortgage, you guys are probably too young for that, the Lehman Brothers shock that sparked the idea that, okay, I'm so comfortable here in New York, I'm such a city urban person, I enjoy the culture, my life here, never actually even think of leaving New York, and my family is in LA. So it was during that downtime, which I, like everybody, we were hanging on to our job. I was working for an agency in Union Square that sparked the idea that this is the perfect time to go out. Because if it was the peaceful moment, I'm getting my paycheck happily, I'm doing everything I like every day, that I'm passionate about, there's no urge or motivation to go out beyond my comfort zone. So I think that's how it all started. And I called the headhunter, a recruiter. I said, hey, I I want to go out, So that's how everything started, and I ended up landing a job that's before Japan. So that was in Shanghai. I've never worked in Asia before. Never worked, China. Visited there as a kid, but never have any professional work experience there. Kind of know the culture, but not really the professional work culture there. So ended up in Shanghai for a few years, for 4 years, and really get a hang and understand, now I understand how it works in Asia. A lot of learnings, a lot of culture shock as well, but you just hang on, get used to it, because life goes on and you have to deliver a lot for work, especially such a high pressure environment. And after a few years in Shanghai, I'm ready to move again. I was like, okay, now I understand.
I'm just going to stop you there for a minute so we can pick up a couple of themes, because I know you won't forget where you are. Right? So one of the things we can pick up from Mikki is her creativity came to her assistance when times were tough. So, you are young enough, not young, you're too young to remember maybe the Lehman crisis, but it was yet another big financial crisis. A lot of people panicked, a lot of people tried to sell, a lot of people didn't know what they were doing, and a lot of people lost their jobs. Boom, up and then down, these boom and bust cycles that we're always talking about. So Mikki saw this as an opportunity. So for those of you who were in the DM class yesterday that Snow and I taught, this is the idea of how much risk are you willing to take, and if you're prepared, what's a risk for somebody else could be a potential opportunity for you. So that's one idea I'd like you to hold on to. As creative people, the risk environment will be a little bit different for you. But even if you're creative, the risk environment is related to how prepared you are. We hope to be preparing you over the next 2 years for a lot of bumps, a lot of hiccups, and a lot of risks. Okay? So remember Mikki, she's leaving Shanghai.
Right, because I totally agree with what you just said, because looking at this generation now and what we all went through in the past 3 years, probably the last crisis wasn't as global or as bad. It was bad, but nothing like this. But it was similar in certain ways that, large agencies, large architecture firms were cutting people by the hundreds. That's how bad it was. So people were just hanging on dearly to their jobs. Like, you're lucky that you're not out there. And people have to move out of New York because nobody can afford paying rent anymore. So it has certain similarities, not so much in scale, but then in personal career experience. It was kind of like that. And I actually feel like I was laughing at myself back then. I was talking to my boss, hey, I'm quitting. This is my resignation letter. And 2 days later, I was like, I'm not sure. And I'm going to a country that I've never actually lived there. I don't know what I'm doing, But my boss was like, yeah, we didn't fire you. You are welcome to change your mind. And you can take your resignation letter back, So it was kind of like that for a little bit. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just go. So it was, as a creative, as a person in the creative industry, what I noticed is my path, like you said, is never really straight. And I took a lot of risk. And a lot of it is also gut feeling. You kind of trust, I kind of trust my gut in most of the time, that it's going to take me somewhere. So that's just my response.
And if I could interrupt you again just for a moment. Yesterday in DM1, I'm sorry, DM2 and ACM1 and 2, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm just referencing back to DM1. We talked about this idea of agency. What does it mean? To be an agent in your own life, to take responsibility for the decisions that you make, and to lead yourself too. Move ahead when you don't know exactly where you're going. So we purposely asked Mikki to come in because she actually is very, very representative of the type of people we're always looking for, the type of people that we are. So that gut feeling has to be accompanied by your feet moving. A lot of people have gut feelings. Doesn't necessarily mean their feet will move them anyplace. So there's an example of agency and feeling the fear, having doubts, having second thoughts, going to your friendly boss and wondering, and him reminding you this was your decision, and this is how it goes. So if you think that people who are successful just go straight ahead and somehow magic happens, that's not how it goes.
So what in Japan is pulling you towards a new country?
Well, it was probably during the 4 years or 5 years in Shanghai. I mean, I love my job. I'm pretty lucky in a certain way that economy and everything, opportunity, somehow so everything kind of fits together that every job, whether it's on the agency side or client side, brand side, I managed to utilize every single damn thing I learned in my education. Especially when you went through an art program, my parents like, what are you gonna do, artist? How are you gonna make money? How are you gonna pay rent? But ended up everything just kind of fit perfectly together. It's all about really understanding. What I'm learning is actually not how to do an oil painting or using that paintbrush. Yes, that's part of it. But the bigger picture is my ability to evolve, to have an open mind, and to see opportunity, to identify opportunity, because I'm creative. I can craft my own way, my own path, so you're in control. That's what I got out of art and design education. So it's the same thing. I was in Shanghai for 4 years, and I feel like, okay, I totally understand how it works now. Love my job, love that high energy, the pace, because I'm such a city person. But then at some point, my body physically is kind of falling apart because I spend all my energy, I'm so devoted in my work, I'm so focused in everyday kind of delivering whatever I'm asked to deliver, that I feel like, okay, I need to swing to the other side, whether it's taking a personal holiday or a break, or to reflect on what I have been doing for 4 years in such a high-paced environment. So the best place being in Asia is, okay, I'll cross the ocean, it's only 2 hours away, to a different culture that I'm not familiar with, and which is also the other end of the pendulum of China, which everything is highly organized, highly disciplined. At least that's my perception back then about Japan. Where China is all about fast, let's deliver, nobody can wait, let's do 20,000 things at a time, Because I keep quantifying the things I work and I deliver in New York, even in good times, working for design agencies or architecture firm, the most one person can handle or manage would be about 4 projects, 5 projects. And even when I mention it to my colleagues, they're like, yeah, 4 and 5 is already kind of really, really good times. At the most, in agencies, you would be juggling between 2 to 3 projects. But then in China, I was managing 5,000 projects at the same time. But of course, I have a team. So that's the difference, right? Global team would come to China and say, how did you even manage to do that? I was like, I don't know, it's kind of like folding origami. So, but it's required for you to move that at that speed. So, and then I moved to Japan, was in a holiday mode, taking a little bit of time reflecting on my health, my body, my mental well-being, and what do I want to do next. So that's how I kind of swing myself to across the ocean and landed in Japan. And things happen again, it's like a company called me, I used to work for Nike. Nike called me and said, Mikki, where are you? I was like, I'm in Japan. So, hey, we have a contractor position. Would you like to start working? I was like, okay. So that's how, so things just happen, That's how I ended up staying in Japan beyond, just a traveler or a tourist. And of course, I make the best out of my experience being there, because that's the whole reason why people travel, why you go to a different culture, is to learn, to absorb, to experience. So I travel, I work, so I get a fairly balanced kind of insight about being a visitor, a traveler, like an outsider, to living there and working there, as even though I'm like a temporary resident, and really understanding the culture, the corporate culture, the work culture, the mentality of local people, and what it's like living actually in Japan. So that's kind of how my journey kind of evolved.
So we'll come, don't forget where you are. Do we think Mikki's lucky? This is one of my favorite things. We hear so far that she's hardworking, she's extremely disciplined, she knows how to take risks, she knows how to deal with ambiguity, she works feverishly to the point where her body almost explodes on her, and this is what we call luck. Right? So there is a little bit of luck in life, but there's also a lot of discipline. So this is a person who's a traveler, a wanderer, a curious soul, an artist who's able to apply things in real time and get stuff done. I would say you are strategic in a very bizarre, roundabout, lucky way. All right, so think about it. Discipline really matters.
I do agree with that, because I am a very disciplined person. Because what I learn is, I kind of, because there's generations who hang on to their job because the work culture, the mentality was different. Like at least a generation before me were like that, or are like that you have to stick to a job, until you retire. It proves your loyalty to a company. But of course, the culture evolved, the economy evolved, things change already. So that work culture is kind of, I'm sure certain people are still like that, but there are more other options at the moment. But we were talking about discipline. So what I learned is I jump around, but I stay focused. That's the thing. I take risks. I do different variety of things. But if you look at, as a portfolio, as a personal career portfolio, I never actually branched too off of how I started in art, culture, and design. So whatever I'm doing, I'm agency side, brand side, designer, architecture, entrepreneur, I still stayed within a certain area, and it's about drilling or perfecting my professional understanding in that same field. So
now we know exactly why you're sharing with us here today, focusing art, design, and cultural with discipline, agency, and leadership and strategy.
yeah, I think focus is also very important, because especially for creative people, like me too, my head just runs wild. I couldn't even sleep at night because there's so much going on in my head. And then if I go see a shrink, they would say, oh, you have bipolar or something, right? But I was like, no, but that's how we are. We are that species of people, of human being that if you see it as an ailment, I got diagnosed as bipolar, or you see that as your strength and utilize that to your own benefit. So that's how that's what I hang on to in my personal career, as well as my personal kind of a life experience. Yeah.
And how did you start at Taketombo? What opportunity did you find and also strengthen you that started this journey?
Well, I never actually let go of what I know I'm good at, because I'm creative and I have crazy ideas all the time, never run out of ideas. So that's something I just hang on to. And I feel confident about it, because self-confidence is another thing, which I am not too worried about, people here. It's more like people in some other countries that needs a little more push in that sense. So being confident about what you're good at. And so yeah, one thing led to another. I was at a point that, okay, my kind of contract ended in Japan. What do I do next? What options are in front of me? Or what new path can I kind of craft for myself? So there is not a lot of answers there. So we just keep trying. So I was like, okay, or I can go back home, which it's always an option because traveling so much around the world, I get lost sometimes, like what country am I in right now? What language do I need to learn or speak right now? It does get confusing, but I never forget that this is home. Because I do come back every year because friends and families are here. And every time I come back, it's yeah, this is home, this is me, this is so my culture. So I never actually forgot about that. So my options are I can come back to the States, figure it out, or is there anything else out there that is worth trying that I haven't touched upon? So that's how that whole thing started. It's like, okay, I haven't actually yet started a company. Let's start a company. So that's how, they call it like, let's run a startup. So that's how the idea of, I can write a business plan, which I don't really have any business background, but I know I need to craft something new. I need to write that down and start convincing myself and other people that this is something I want to do. So that's the plan, at least back then. I don't know whether it will actually take form because I was in a foreign country that I have to navigate through a lot of things that is not even in my own language. How do I even do that? But at least I have that plan there. So after I wrote something down, it was like a fancy PPT with images and ideas about what I want to do, because I see opportunity as a traveler there, working there and getting connections with people back home that, hey, these are really wonderful places and things that you're experiencing, because they're on my social media. Like, they see what I post on the internet, literally. It's like, hey, that's interesting. Can I try that? Is there any way I can get there? I was like, I can turn that into a business, maybe, perhaps. So that's how that idea, it's just such a rough idea that, say, maybe that can be an opportunity or a business. So I kind of write that idea down as just a very high level concept. No strategy, no goal, or nothing. It's just an idea. And I start talking to people, with the very few people that I know in Tokyo, because I haven't lived there for too long, that I show it to them and say, what do you think? Do you even think this makes sense? I don't even know how to do it. And most people give me very positive feedback, say, hey, that's totally doable. Let me know if I can help. So that's how one thing kind of led to another.
What was the idea back then? Is it introducing Japanese tradition to people who's interested in art and design?
Well, being in Tokyo, or in Japan in general, the best thing about the country, at least during the brief stay that I was there, was the infrastructure, the transportation is so accessible, so easy to get to places. So that's one thing, and being a traveler, I went to so many places, exploring and meeting local people. I don't even speak the language very well, and just try to do body language and things, and receiving such great hospitality, as you know, like we call it omotenashi, Japanese hospitality, that makes you feel so nice, it gives you that nice feeling as a traveler, like even though you're in the rural countryside. But at the same time, I start seeing that, wait, everybody is like crowded in Kyoto and Osaka and Tokyo, that they never branch out. So why is that? But then when I show people that these are the experience and places I went to, and these are the people I met, I hear interest. So that means to me, in the business terms, there's the demand there. So it becomes some kind of a business opportunity that is like, wait, there are many untapped location, unexplored location that can be promoted, and they do need that visitors, they need more attention, because everything is so focused and heavily invested in only a few places. And then you start looking at the barrier. How come people are not branching out beyond Osaka and Kyoto, doing all the geisha kimono wearing thing. Why? There's so much more to offer from this tiny little country. And then you start analyzing and understanding the use of area. It's like, why are people jam-packed in that certain area, which are super expensive, and they are in the tourist trap pretty much, doing the same thing, buying the same souvenirs. It's because of the language, the information is not out there. Obviously, Japan has a huge barrier in terms of communicating globally in English, because they're so, for the past 30 years, 20 years, they're so focused in domestic market that they got kind of left out of they're being disconnected from a lot of the global scenes. So I was like, then I could be the bridge. I could be that person who communicate that, or who show those information out there to the people who are willing to branch, who wants to branch out beyond Tokyo, Osaka, and Tokyo. So that's how the idea started. It becomes kind of a special, we call it experiential travel. Because I was doing a lot of experiential retail design back then. I was like, let's make it a physical experience as well. So I kind of crafted because now there's a lot of competitors out there, doing similar things. But back then it was relatively new. Nobody even heard of that. It's like, let's do a very special, bespoke, curated travel experience for people who are willing to branch out beyond the usual tourist attraction places. So that's how the whole business started, as more like a experiential travel business.
If I could just for a moment, and then please ask Mikki a question so it isn't just snowing me up here. Please, all of you, ask Mikki a question. As you know, she can talk. Yes, you do hear her talk. But I have a question for you all. So remember those 4 Ds? Some of you haven't had them yet, but discover, define, design, and deliver. You haven't heard anything about design and deliver. Right? It's all what?
Consequences. It's all consequences of the things that you prepared between define and design. No. And discover.
Discover.
Yeah.
So Mikki spends a lot of time, as a lot of creative people do, in the discovery phase. And that discovery phase keeps changing. So you can easily get lost there. As you said, you have 1,000 thoughts per minute, you could go anywhere with them. But if you listen, and I've had a chance to listen to Mikki for a few years, if you listen to Mikki, she toggles back and forth between seeing what's out there and seeing what's in here and what's possible. She keeps doing it, she keeps doing it, she keeps doing it. It's that figure-ground relationship that strategists and designers are very good at. But she's not starting off by saying, I have to deliver this to them. And I really want to emphasize this because we're a business program. So we're going to spend a lot of time, and Mikki could definitely go there, on unique value propositions and how to put your business plan together and how to put your marketing plan together. You will know how to do that. But you can never forget that that's not something you can just ask Google how to do. It's something you have to have worked on yourself to know how it is that you want to do it. That's the spirit of being an entrepreneur, or simply being a good person able to see opportunities. Okay? So now we're almost at the design and deliver phase, but first we have a question.
I just wanted to ask, for those who didn't read the newsletter, can you tell me more about Taketombo, just so we have a little bit of context?
So we can go right to design and deliver. Thank you very much for running.
Yeah, just because I know that we've included a lot of information, but for those who don't know.
So yeah, design, Taketombo is a company that I built from scratch, based on very highly personal insight. It's not like I do a good business kind of a background research and statistic and demographics, because if you talk to any business person, they would ask you, so who are your demographics? And they went through all those terminologies, where they just throw terms at you, right? But for me, it's just personal insight as a traveler, what I experience, and then you start seeing things and you identify opportunities. It's not really quantified kind of data. So it's personal insight that I use that insight to create a business, which I try to bridge. I'm trying to connect an experience for you coming to visit Japan. So it's kind of like a bespoke program where I do have inquiries from mainly North Americans and Europeans telling me they have been, they visited Japan before. They went through all the usual courses. What is there to see? They know there are more out there, but they don't know how and where and how to get to. And they also have certain kind of their own wish list. Like, oh, I am a potter, I am a textile designer. I know Japan has certain things like that. Can you hook me up? Can I go spend a little more time? I'm not there just to take photos and, go shopping and take photos and put on IG, So I want to get deeper learnings about certain things. Can you help me? So it was a very highly bespoke or tailored, customized program that answers the inquiry, but as well, at the same time, it's also helping and benefiting a lot of these rural towns, which needs definitely more attention and investment. So that's kind of the core concept of what Taketombo is.
So I'll come to you, to put it in our words, what Mikki did as a creative was she looked around and she saw things that were assets. She didn't look for the weaknesses of Japan. Every country has its weaknesses. She looked for the assets, and she looked for those assets that were under-discovered and undervalued. Even some of the people in Japan, they knew Sony, they knew Toyota, they knew other things, but they didn't know that these craft places could actually create economic value in rural areas when all of the young people were moving into the cities. So as in any country in the world, you have the same thing. You have rural areas that are falling into ruin because nobody wants to stay there anymore because all the action is in the city. But you drop in a foreigner who doesn't know any better, and she goes to the rural area and she goes, wow, this is an opportunity. That is the art of strategy. Seeing what other people don't see and finding where not only is there value there, but you can actually create economic value. In DM1 we talked about, if you can't make what you value somehow quantifiable, it's hard to keep it vibrant and going. She was able to do that. She saw what she could turn into a service, a material, a workshop, a learning, and she could quantify the value of what other people had dismissed as valueless. Zina?
Yeah, just kind of adding on to what you said, I find it really fascinating how we can engage with certain cities and landscapes, not as visitors or consumers, but as active creative thinkers. And so, like you said, a lot of people travel to Japan and they pay a lot of money for very detailed tours, but how is it different to approach a new space, whether it's a space to set up an exhibition or a new space as in like a rural village or a city? What kind of intention and curiosity do you carry with you in order to discover things of economic value and new possibilities?
You raise such an important point. Mikki would not be here, nor do I think she'd be very successful doing something that she's doing, if she had gone to Japan as a consumer. Oh, their economy isn't doing so well, let me go and get some bags. Okay? She didn't do that. She went as a wanderer. And for those of you who took the trip to Japan with us, their keychain said from Tolkien, all who wander are not lost. They're wandering, they're wondering, they're appreciative. And because of those things, she's actually able to be successful. Now, we could argue about how successful you are on any given day in 100-degree heat, but she was able to find her way around the world and be a happy person doing what she loves to do. And so far, we haven't had to give her lunch.
Right. So I think, yeah, you mentioned the word curiosity. That's definitely like very critical of anybody in design and in the design and creative industry. That's the drive, you have to be curious about it yourself, and then immersion. Without me being there immersing myself into that, I will not have gained those unique insights. So there are a lot of things that is not really like planned or you know, like business and analyze. You know, I actually don't have that background to even do that, but it's a lot of personal insight from my own immersion in that culture, and then observation is another thing, because one very unique example that only applies in Japan probably, maybe not, maybe in other Asian countries as well, is what I notice is, because I am there as a foreigner, I'm never really accepted as a local person. That's just how their culture is. Being like the foreigner there, watching, experiencing, interacting with people every day, I realized, wait, local Japanese people aspire to American culture. They aspire to European cultures. They worship our brands. They would line up, you know, to get Nike shoes. You know, I was like, okay, we have outlets here, like $60 only. So you gain those insights. You realize, wait, so they aspire to our culture. And then there are certain things that we aspire to their culture as well. Because there's, you know, obviously a lot of things that is very new to us. The idea or the traditional concept of wabi-sabi, you know, philosophy that are very intriguing to us here, to Westerners, people who lived in US or Europe, you know. So seeing that, I kind of turned that into a business strategy in a way, which I realized, you know, whatever certain craft that I'm promoting right now, you guys probably seen on the internet that I'm doing a kintsugi, like pottery repair craft, which is a very traditional thing in Japan. When I picked that up, that craft, like 6-7 years ago in Japan, I talked to every single person I know in Japan that, hey, I'm learning this is really interesting craft. 100% of them said, what is that? Kintsugi? Never heard of it. Show them a picture, it's like, oh, kinda, yeah, I kinda know about it. So back then in Japan, Tokyo, or even in other prefectures, most people haven't even heard of it. If you're not in the craft or lacquer industry. Whereas in US, for some reason, certain industry here picked up an image of this craft, and it's blown out right now to be one of the most trendy thing. You know, trendy may not be a very nice word. You know, it sounds a little charged, but at least, you know, it becomes some kind of an industry going on, which, you know, people are dying to understand and learn more about the philosophy, the craft, the information, the details. But then again, the information is not there because everything is in Japanese. My American customer and European customer would go all the way to buy a Japanese book and use Google Translate to translate all the content so they understand the craft. They will scavenge on the internet, looking at YouTube videos in Japanese, which they have no idea, they just start copying. And then being American, we start like innovating, like turning this craft into something else that has nothing to do with the original craft. So I seeing that, I said, wait, there's another opportunity that I can actually help promote this craft in this most authentic way. And obviously there's a lot of challenge for the craft to survive in Japan. So once again, I kind of pick up that role as the bridge. The most interesting insight as a business strategy is, what happened is, now this whole trend in America and Europe is becoming so big that Japanese people start looking, wow, Americans are all doing kintsugi, I want to learn it too.
So if we could just stop there for a moment and get some of your reflections on what Mikki just said, but especially for those of you in arts and cultural management, what we're hearing here is a conversation about cultural heritage that continues to evolve. Living traditions that are sometimes forgotten by the very people you would think would respect and revere them. but somebody else comes into town and they see something that somebody else no longer respects, they send it across the river, all of a sudden it comes back with some respect. And cultural heritage isn't a monument that everybody goes to see that's been there forever. It's constantly evolving, and in some ways, it is shared cultural heritage. The people who don't grow up in the place want something that comes in that material object that creates a sensibility for them. Somebody had a hand up, Zena?
Yeah, I mean, what you said is really interesting.
Let me just get a mic to you so it's on Zoom. You went and take this. Oh,
There's folks on.
you're okay? Yeah. Here.
Can you give me the mount? Maybe we can pass this one around.
This is why I said come in closer.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, what you're talking about made me think of one word, which is decolonizing. And this is really present through arts and culture, and this idea of, because I come from the Middle East, and so it's a very similar thing where you really worship the West, and whether it's reintroducing yourself to old Arabic literature or music, it creates something that's really impactful politically and socially, where for generations, you and your ancestors were convinced that your race or your ethnicity or your religion is less than, because it's not Western. But then through, I think, arts, it's the only way to kind of regain a sense of respect for where you come from.
Right.
And yeah, I just find that really inspiring.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah.
I will take that.
Right, so ultimately, right now, my observation, my insight, my learning is, to me, it's also very kind of surprising to see like how a traditional heritage craft needs to be exported outside of the country in order for it to gain respect from the local people once again. So to me, that's a very unique kind of experience or insight for this business that I've managed to kind of leverage it. Because for me, yes, I would think in terms of business, how do I generate revenue based on this kind of situation? But at the same time, how do I add value back to this forgotten heritage? Because whatever is going on right now, whether it's the Western trend, or whether it's the local domestic market start picking it up again, it is also contributing back to a declining industry. Because for me, I need to dig deep into this craft that, wow, this actually is beyond just putting back together some broken pottery. It involved the categories of craftsmen in the industry, starting from the people who actually grow the tree that yields the lacquer juice, all the way to the people who handmade the brushes for this certain craft. So if I spend time to really dig deep into that, I said, wow, whatever I'm doing right now is actually contributing back to a range of people working in the craft industry, leveraging what's going on right now, and connecting all these different parts of the world, coming together who are passionate about this to learn more about this craft.
So I do want to stop you because I have a mission here. I want to just demonstrate that the vocabulary that we use in the program is meant to give you a few little pots that you can put things in. But you can just be a human without that vocabulary. And you can hear what Mikki is talking about is connecting culture, commerce, community, in ways that collaborate with the people who are already there and create caring exchanges. When we say 4 C's, 12 D's, 99 Z's, we have a reason for doing it, to put into a small package all of the learning that this soul had to figure out all by herself without any kind of an acronym. Without the caring, it wouldn't have worked for Mikki. So let's roll the movie backward. She's a foreigner. She doesn't speak the language. She's got to collaborate and listen and communicate with people. She's got to find out the secrets that they don't even know anymore, and maybe they don't even have any respect for. If they think you're there to steal, they will not steal. So this is one of the ways that we can talk about regenerative economies. We give you a lot of silly stuff here in the program in terms of big words and long articles, but this is a person who comes to help regenerate and also regenerate her own spirit. Remember, she went there because she needed a relax and a refresh, and also to create economic value for herself and for the communities. So here's a living example of the fact that it is possible.
To add a few more C's and also contributed by Zina, I also heard cultivating cultural curiosity with the community. Is that I think is your curiosity to dig, to discover, and to experiment. Brings back to, let's look at what's the value here and what can we do more to revitalize a town, a neighborhood, and a local craft and craftsmanship and art. And that also made me think about the living experience of cultural heritage, make it modern and bring the current relevance to our modern world about what all those old traditional craftsmen mean in our modern world. I don't know when you're practicing or collecting those stories or working with the community, how do you balance this transition from the past to the future and any relevance that you learn from those traditional practices with discipline, with dedication and focus, especially what does it mean in our modern society where everything is fast consumption and with an anxiety to grow and scale?
Well, for me, I think the biggest experience is jumping between these high-paced kind of my career and my life in LA and New York. I mean, just the name of these cities, right? Tokyo, Shanghai, New York, LA. So you can imagine, okay, immediately have that picture in your head, the kind of lifestyle, right? The kind of work that you'll be doing, living there as an urban person, you know, and the demand to survive. To hang into that job, you have to handle, 5,000 projects at the same time. You have to deliver the revenue pressure. We are so trained to juggle, and it's being seen as a value. It's a good thing. Everybody help out. Yeah, we multitask, especially the age and era where we all use cell phones. You never turn off your cell phones. Of course, we now talk about work-life balance, but a few years back, yeah, you are expected to multitask, to swinging into a culture which it's all about doing only one thing, having focus and doing one thing really, really well. So for me, having both sides, experiencing both sides of the pendulum, I'm not like choosing side, but I make sure I have that flexibility. Because when I deal with certain situations, especially, I need to deliver revenue, certain things, then I would make sure I pick up certain mentality. But then when I need to hone in, find focus in drilling something of quality, then I swing myself back to the other side of the pendulum and pick up a different kind of a working mode or mentality in order to deliver that level of work. So to me, that's the kind of cultural bridge and learning that I have, being in such a strange kind of a wide range of, kind of a cultural culture, work culture.
I'm just going to pay attention to the time because I know some people might actually want to have a conversation with you that's not mic'd and, save a little time for that before you go to work. But are there any other questions that come to your mind? Anybody that hasn't spoken, come up and get a mic. We have a mic up here. Going once, going twice.
Thank you for the talk. So, as you see, most of us are international students, and I love when you mentioned immerse yourself in the culture and try to learn from them. So maybe you can tell us 3 tips. How can we immerse ourselves in the culture, and how can we have an open mind to learn from whatever we're seeing every day?
3 tips. I would say, return to the United States. That's quite an assignment there. Well, I would say number one, or maybe all three tips are the same. Curiosity. Because we talked about that the other night when we were having dinner. Like, curiosity it's the most important value that anyone, especially if you're in the creative industry, design industry, needs to have. And whichever country location you are at the moment. Whether you're studying here or you're back at your home base, curiosity is what it will take you to the next step. Curiosity is what will open more doors for you, because everything becomes a possibility for you because you're curious. I guess not afraid to fail, because failing is part of the learning. Because without failing, you won't get better. But in certain culture, failing is like you're gonna die. Your life only get one chance. Especially in a lot of Asian culture, I realize that. That's why everybody tends to follow that same path diligently, because they can't branch off, because there's only one chance in your life. But to me, my learning is, yes, it sounds like so glorious right now, like, oh, you're a business owner, whatever. But I went through a lot of failures too, It's like mental breakdown a lot of times on my own, because I don't get a lot of support. But without going through those, I won't gain new insight. So I think I wouldn't say it's taking risk, because ultimately you kind of know yourself that how far you can go, how far you can push yourself. I wouldn't also say you know your limits. It's more like you just know, like, yeah, that's how far I should go. It's like that gut feeling again. I'm not gonna drive myself crazy over this, let go, maybe I'll try different things. So I would say it's probably not 3 tips, but then curiosity is definitely something that I value a lot in my path. And I see that actually took me to places that opened doors for me. And then not afraid to fail. Just that I fail, I learn something, I move on. So.
That was 2 wishes.
Yeah.
We had 3. We're in America now. We asked for 3 tips, Mikki, and you've got 1 more minute.
Let's understand how we can offer and contribute our curiosity and collaborative network.
Right, and
Make a wish.
my wish is to, I don't know, world peace. No, I think I would say, especially for young generation, is professionalism. It's something that, a lot of times people relate the word professionalism to you do a certain job, you build a career in this path, and I build my professionalism. But to me, I think we are at this era where nobody actually get tied down to one career path, You are literally kind of forced into the world where you have to pick up many things and try different things, and not everything will guarantee you success. So, but then how do you build yourself back up? That's professionalism, I think. It's a lot of like personal growth, and like in terms of your being just more mature, gaining maturity in your career. That's professionalism. Instead of something about, oh, I'm an architect, I'm a professional. I'm a doctor, I'm a professional. It's not even about that anymore. It's like your ethics, your discipline, and like
Your values?
yeah, your values. Exactly. That's the perfect word. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to close it up because I know that you have to be professional and disciplined and return to class. And I want to thank Mikki and also refer you to the article that was written about her in Catalyst. And I think you are available as a semi-resource, are you? Not to be plagued and burdened. But also if you have anything that you want to contribute back to Mikki, because she's always looking for people who. She did a workshop yesterday all by herself without anybody to help her with anything. So if there's anything that you think you might offer to her, that's what our Catalyst Action Network is about. What can you give? What do you need? Tell us a little bit about that.
Do you have a contact that we can have?
Yeah, I think the best way everybody like try to contact me is via social media. I get all sorts of inquiries and questions and comments, feedback, and that's how I stay connected with everybody. Like, yeah, it's just amazing internet, world of internet.
I want to pick up on one thing that Zena said, though. The theme of colonialism is running large around the world right now. And one of the things I would like us all to remember, that what anybody who's trying to colonize does is try to take away you from you and everything you have, make it meaningless and unimportant until it's used by them. You can control whether or not you're colonized by consumption, by all of the things that we have running our modern world together. And if you become so afraid that the only way to make a living is to be part of that ridiculous wheel, then colonization continues to succeed. So let's hold that thought and give Mikki a big hand. Thank you, Mikki.
Yeah, thanks. It's helpful.